Good evening and welcome to the council meeting of the town of Newmarket on Monday, December 14th, 2015. All members of council are present and Mayor Van Bynen is presiding.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Shelton, if you could speak to the amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have an addendum, actually two that are before you. Just to sort of the numbering, if I could, to start out with, generally the numbering system includes the bylaws. So we do have in an addendum item 17, excluding the bylaws, that would be item 12, which I think is in the council agenda items. And so that is a correction to item 3, which deals with a deputation. And the change is that Dr. Zaiv Wolfhart will be speaking rather than Terry Fair. Item 13, which was also noted as 18, Special Committee of the Whole minutes of December 14th. That's from the meeting earlier this morning for ratification of those minutes. And item 14, which was identified as 19, that's the Special Committee of the Whole minutes of November 16th, 2015 for confirmation only. The fees and charges bylaw referenced in the minutes were adopted. And in terms of the Viva Next Works noise exemption bylaw, which is bylaw 2015-62, page 92, that will be corrected administratively to include a revocation clause should community impact be deemed excessive by staff or council. So that will be an administrative correction that is made to that. The other item that I'll just draw your attention to is there's been a handout tonight, which I believe is a deputation that will be made by Sabrina Rosali. That's it for the addendum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Could I have a motion then to adopt the additions and the corrections to the agenda?
I'll move that.
Councillor Hampton, seconded by Councillor Sponga. Tonight's the night we vote by buttons. All those in favor? Is it working? That's carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest regarding items on the agenda? Being none, then, what I'll do first is I will call upon Lisa Lyons, the Deputy Clerk of the Town of Newmarket, as she's also a member and a Zone Director of the Association of Municipal Managers, Clerks and Treasurers of Ontario, known as AMTCO. And Lisa will be announcing an award on behalf of the AMTCO.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of Council. June 13th, 2015 marked the 10th anniversary of the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. The goal of the Act is to increase accessibility for people with disabilities and enable them to participate in their communities. To celebrate the anniversary, the Association of Municipal Managers, Clerks and Treasurers of Ontario, also known as AMCTO, with the support of the Government of Ontario, launched a one-time award called the AODA 10th Anniversary Champion Award to recognize accessibility champions across the province. The award recognizes outstanding individuals who demonstrate leadership, passion, and commitment in the promotion of awareness of accessibility and inclusiveness in their community. It gives me great pleasure to advise that a resident of Newmarket has been selected as an award recipient. The nominations, or the nominators, Ms. Christine Blake Dury and Dr. Joy McKinnon, described our local champion in the nomination submission attached to this council agenda. For the benefit of the viewing audience, I will read some of this nomination. Dr. Terry McQuaid is a registered clinical psychologist and is the Director of Counseling and Accessibility Services at Seneca College. Terry leads a staff of 32 in providing individual counseling, instructional strategy training, and accommodation planning for students with mental health issues and/or disabilities. She is also responsible for academic counseling, assessment of program needs and student abilities, and assessment of learning problems for students in academic jeopardy at the college. Since her arrival at Seneca in 2012, Terry has worked in her leadership capacity to make significant enhancements to how we support the accessibility of students inside and outside the classroom. Terry is dedicated to ensuring that every student is offered the same opportunity to excel in their program and that no one be held back due to a lack of support or resources. Terry possesses extensive experience in the areas of counseling and accessibility based on her previous posts with the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health, York University, and the York Region District School Board. Her experience and leadership have set Seneca on a new path to offering leading-edge student supports for Ontario post-secondary institutions. Terry's commitment to advancing mental health and accessible supports for persons with disabilities in her community has made a significant impact. Throughout her career, she has worked with marginalized and/or at-risk groups through her volunteer and professional pursuits. Terry has advised a number of community-based organizations and committees with a focus on improving quality for life of those with disabilities and mental health challenges, including Accessibility Advisory Council, Tropicana Community Services, Elms Community School and Pool, and the Spectrum Mental Health Clinic. Currently, Terry is working to increase accessible learning opportunities and generate innovative programming and delivery approaches at Seneca. She is the lead on the college's Accommodate project, which involves the development of a new web-based online booking, record, and resource system for students. Once the system is up and running, students will have the ability to electronically upload information, access class notes, and student resources. The next phase of the project will include a test center module designed to support students and faculty with respect to accommodating all levels of ability. Terry has worked tirelessly to provide a strong platform for Seneca's counselors and staff to transfer knowledge and increase collaboration. The reduction of accessibility barriers across college departments has meant that students and staff of all abilities are better able to engage and participate in our community. Terry has become a champion for accessibility and a driver of meaningful dialogue across the college on issues of mental health and disability. Her contributions and advocacy have improved the experience of many Seneca students, and her work outside Seneca continues to continues to benefit thousands across the Greater Toronto area. Terry and her committed team work hard to decrease stigma associated with mental health challenges and disability across the college, and to increase the capacity of frontline staff to respond to youth and adults with highly complex issues. Terry is dedicated to ensuring that every student is offered the same opportunity to excel in their program and not be held back due to a lack of support or resources. New standards have been set at Seneca, and thanks to Terry, hundreds of our students will benefit. For Seneca and her community, Terry is truly an accessibility and inclusiveness champion. On behalf of AMCTO and the town of Newmarket, I would like to congratulate Dr. Terry McQuaid on this accomplishment and thank her for inspiring our community. Mr. Mayor and members of council, can you please join me in the center to award this presentation?
Thank you. Members of council will join us. Where's Dr. McQuaid?
Thank you.
You've done some great work, and it's good to see that it's appreciated.
Thanks.
So we'll,
Thank you very much.
congratulations again.
Thank you.
Okay, good. And in continuing with the good news, we have former mayor of the town of Newmarket, Tom Taylor, and Aaron Sorrenzia to tell us about what's been accomplished with Neighborhood Network. If you'd like to come forward, please.
You'll notice, Mr. Mayor, I didn't sit down in front of the technology. Aaron and
We
I
still
are
have
here-
your electronic abacus. Go ahead, Tom.
Aaron and I are here this evening to give you an update on Neighborhood Network, who in about a couple of months will have completed 8 years of operation. Neighborhood Network operates now in Newmarket, Aurora, East Gwillimbury, Georgina, and King. And we're looking to go into Witchard-Stouffville, which will be the northern six, so to speak. Neighborhood Network is totally funded by the Magna Corporation, and I think the Magna Corporation is a role model for corporate social responsibility because of not only what they do through Neighborhood Network, but through many other venues that they socially fund for other people. So having said that, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to turn it over to Aaron, who knows much more than I do about the day-to-day operations. I better qualify that, and she can take on. Aaron?
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of council. Thank you so much for having us tonight. I think it's very rare that people probably come before you just to share good news. We're not looking for anything other than to give you a friendly update from one of your community partners. So we're very happy to be here this evening. Just quickly, I know Tom touched on it, but in front of you, you'll see a little bit of an overview. As we know, I'm a historian, so I have to give you the historical overview of how Neighborhood Network came to be. In 2008, Neighborhood Network was officially formed and launched in partnerships with the town of Aurora and Newmarket. Tom is our ambassador for Newmarket, and former Mayor Tim Jones is our ambassador for Aurora. So they really led the charge for this. And the idea for Neighborhood Network began really when Belinda Stronach was the MP for Newmarket Aurora. She had a number of individuals, local residents, coming into her constituency office whose needs were very real, but those needs fell outside the scope of what an MP did. And for her, that didn't sit right, not being able to help those individuals. And she knew that there were an amazing, vast number of resources and individuals and volunteers within our communities who would be able to come together and help one another if they had a network, a neighborhood network, a means of doing so. So that's how the idea for Neighborhood Network was formed. A lot of research was done by Tom and Tim, to put us forward and get started. And then as we transitioned and became an official organization, Magna International became our sole funder of the program and continues to do so as part of their corporate social responsibility project. We have a policy at Magna entrenched in our charter to give up to 2% of every pre-tax dollar earned back into communities, especially communities where our employees live and work. So that's the reason for continued funding of this program. And it just makes sense because it's such a phenomenal organization. And since 2008, we've really worked hard to become one of Newmarket's go-to volunteer agencies. Of course, we know that York Info runs very successfully out of the Newmarket Public Library. And I'll just talk a little bit about what distinguishes the two of us. York Info is a tremendous, tremendous database. Neighborhood Network will never pretend to be as elaborate of a database as York Info, but there are some things that make us different, primarily in how we engage with our partners and with our volunteers. So, we partner with local charities, nonprofits, community groups, and as Tom mentioned, these partnerships take place not only in Newmarket and Aurora, but now in East Gwillimbury and King Township and Georgina. And on the screen you will see that these partners currently sit at 314, which we are very, very excited about. It's almost 100 increase in partners since 2014, so it's been a great year for us. And then you'll also see on the stats in front of you on the screen that we have 69 current volunteer opportunities. That's as of Friday morning when I sent in the slides, so the opportunities are changing and updating every day. As an ambassador for Neighborhood Network, one of Tom's jobs is to identify all of our potential partner organizations and register them with our organization. And our partners benefit from a wide variety of things, a couple of which are our placement on our direct placement on our website. You'll see this is just a screenshot of the website. Every Neighborhood Network partner, they go onto our website. If I had the hover function available and we hovered over one of their names, their logo would pop up. And then you can click on the link and it'll take you directly to that organization's personal webpage. This is great, just another means of promotion. Perhaps someone might not be familiar with the name of the organization, but when they hover over, they see the logo and they recognize them. So that's a really great feature. We also promote any volunteer opportunity and need of our partner organizations, and that's done in our weekly e-newsletter that goes out on Tuesday mornings, also on the website and on social media. And our partners also benefit from a really neat feature, kind of think of it as like a little Facebook profile for our partners, but they now have a specific partner portal where they're able to log in and not only post their volunteer opportunities and community events, but these partners can see real statistics on who is clicking on their volunteer opportunity. So you'll see on the screen in front of you, this is a sample from last year. You can see how many volunteers registered with Neighborhood Network clicked on an opportunity. That's where it says the 49 total views. You can see how many volunteers who were not registered with Neighborhood Network, but who might have just come across doing a Google search, clicked on the volunteer opportunity because they were interested. And then if we scroll down further, there are a couple of ways that we break down those number of clicks, geographic location, and by gender and by interest. So what we really try to do for our partners is help them understand who is that niche group of volunteers that's interested in their organization. You know, when you're dealing with a charity or not-for-profit that doesn't have a high budget, understanding who your core group of volunteers is and who you need to be targeting is really, really valuable information. So we're happy to present this information to our partners. And conversely, you know, if we go in there and we see that an opportunity maybe only has 1 or 2 clicks, what does that tell us? Do we need to change the posting a little bit and rebrand and market it in a new way so that we're getting those volunteers to that agency? Again, back to our stats, you'll also notice that we have over 8,000 registered volunteers in our database. And these volunteers range from high school students who are looking to complete their 40 community involvement or Christian community service hours, adults, families, business employees, and seniors. And it's one of my roles as the coordinator of Neighborhood Network to recruit volunteers, register with them with Neighborhood Network, and in particular I do this by going into the high schools, engaging with students in volunteer fairs, working with them one-on-one in the classrooms, and then we also attend community events, and we work with Deanna Smith very, very frequently here at the town to try and attend and participate in as many community events as we can. So when a volunteer registers with Neighborhood Network, it's a really easy process. They simply go to the website, they fill in their information, and then like the partners, we create a personalized profile for those volunteers. And this is just a screenshot that you would see if you were a registered volunteer and you logged in. We now have a couple of really neat features. Volunteers can track their hours, and we've applied some metrics and some stats so that the volunteers can see the real impact that their volunteering is having on the community. We try, especially for the high school students who feel that they only have to volunteer because they can't graduate unless they've done their 40 hours, we try and give them a reason and show them the bigger picture of what volunteering and supporting your community is all about. So these stats are a really cool way of doing so. And then along the bottom, each volunteer, when they register with Neighborhood Network, they have the opportunity to select different interests. So for example, arts, sports, health, if those are the things that you as an individual are interested in. And then when you log into your personalized volunteer profile, those volunteer opportunities along the bottom of the screen will be directly related to what you want to volunteer in. So again, we're trying to show them what it is they like, find them something very meaningful so that when they go and volunteer, they care about what they're doing, they enjoy what they're doing, and hopefully it encourages them to give back above and beyond those 40 hours in particular for the high school students. Last but not least, in addition to all of this, Neighborhood Network also runs several annual programs out in the community. These programs were all started by local residents who brought them to our attention as a need. So our fall food drive Very, very important, and we had a great meeting with Councillor Sponga recently discussing the food drive and how we can take it to the next level, in particular in Newmarket. It was identified to us that there's a great need in between the holiday seasons for a food drive because people are very generous at Thanksgiving and they're very generous at Christmas, but they sometimes forget in those in-between periods. So we run our food drive every fall. Since the program began in 2009, we've raised over $30,000 for the local food banks. And we have at least 100 volunteers in each municipality when we're running the program.
Now, Aaron, I have you at 10 minutes, so
I'm so sorry.
I'll need council to extend it by an additional 5 minutes if I can have that motion. Councillor 20, Councillor Vega, all those in favor?
Thank you, I apologize.
No?
Our winter snow removal program was brought to us by Regional Councillor Taylor, and it's a great, great program. What we do here is we match volunteers to a local senior or a person with disability who lives no more than a 10-minute walking distance from that individual. And when there's a significant amount of snowfall, which we deem for our program as 10 centimeters or more, that volunteer goes out and they clear a path from the front door to the end of the driveway. They clear the town sidewalks and they clear that really annoying windrow that the snowplow leaves behind at the bottom of your driveway. I know we haven't had any snow this winter, which is great, but this program helps so many individuals who would otherwise be trapped in their home for the winter. It also offers an opportunity for personal caregivers and support workers to come in, provide food, provide care for those individuals who are within their homes. Our holiday gift drive, which we're running right now, is again a great program. What makes ours unique is that we reach out to all of our 314 partners. We identify what their most urgent needs are, and then we advertise those needs and collect gifts and donations and distribute them to our partners based on what their most urgent needs are. If anyone is interested in making a donation, you can go to our website at any time and see that list. Spring tree planting, self-explanatory. This is one of our favorite programs, though. We've planted over 12,000 trees since the program began, and we know with the development going on in our area, it's more important than ever to plant trees. And again, we get hundreds of volunteers, students, families, businesses out in the community for this program. And lastly, our Give Back Awards is a scholarship that we give to 20 graduating grade 12 students each year. It's a $500 cash prize, and it's awarded for students who've done a lot to give back to their community, who have been inspired by volunteering. They don't need to be an A+ student. They don't need to have played on every team in high school. They just have to love volunteering and share why their volunteer experience was meaningful. They share that with us, and then we celebrate them, and it's really a fabulous evening. Mayor Van Bynen has been in attendance before, and we are so excited for our new group that we have coming in for 2016. Again, I apologize for going over time. So much to say, but we do thank the town of Newmarket for your continued partnership with Neighbourhood Network and your support as we continue building better communities together. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of clarification? Our computer just went, oh, we're back. Well, there being none, I'll entertain a motion to receive this presentation and the first presentation as well. Councillor Sponga, Councillor Broom-Plumley, all those in favor, and that is carried. Well, Aaron, it's always great to see the positive energy that we have in our community and how people will take the time to make a positive difference. And we certainly appreciate the way that Neighbourhood Network has enabled that, certainly being a great community partner, and it's worked well for us. And we look forward to continuing our support of the program.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And that is carried. I don't think we have everybody here yet, but we'll correct that. Now, members of council, I'm wondering, our next deputation is Dr. Zave Wolfart from Southlake, but perhaps for the benefit of our viewing audience, there may be some benefit for us to ask Mr. Service to do his presentation to outline what's being considered at this point, and then we can have Dr. Wolfart speak to that. So I'd like to bring item number 9, I refer to it as item number 9A, which is a presentation by the Director of Recreation and Culture to talk about the fitness center option in the Magna Center. So, Mr. Service, if you could come forward, and then we'll come back.
Thank you, Mayor Van Bynen and members of council. Excuse me, I apologize for my cold. I wasn't expecting to be on quite this early, so I apologize if I'm a little bit less prepared. It is my pleasure to speak with you tonight about a possible option to consider in the development of the Magna Centre, and that being the development of a fitness centre. In June 2015, Council was presented the Recreation Playbook. In that, there was a recommendation to explore the development of equipment-based, membership-oriented fitness facility to be run municipally or in a partnership at the Magna Centre. This recommendation emanated from a variety of feedback received from the public that was done through public consultation through the Recreation Playbook, as well as regular questions that come to the front desk area, the kiosks at the Magna Centre, where we are frequently asked about whether a fitness center is available and where one is. So given that, we have developed a vision for how we would anticipate operating a fitness center. We are looking at something that would be a more holistic kind of approach, where we would look at health and well-being, welcoming all members of the community, regardless of age, ability, or financial circumstance. I really want to highlight this point because this is what would differentiate us from the private sector, is that ability to offer services to those whether they can afford them or not. Within the private sector, there is no financial assistance that exists within fitness centers, so this would allow those who can't afford a membership to still have the opportunity to participate. We are looking at it as being a membership-based facility that would also sell day passes, so you don't have to be a member to utilize the facility. You'd have the opportunity to come in and purchase day passes. We would look at it being the fitness center component of it itself would be open to individuals 16 years of age and up, but youth ages 13 to 15 would also have opportunity to participate after they've learned how to do so safely. We would look at a special cardiac rehab membership that we would create in partnership with Southlake Hospital, and they're here tonight to speak as well. Membership fees would be priced at a point where they're affordable while we're still competing in the marketplace. So we don't want to price ourselves completely under the private sector so that it impedes the private sector's ability to compete, but we also don't want to be a really expensive high-end kind of experience. We want it to be that middle affordable price point. As I spoke, the financial assistance model would be developed to ensure those who couldn't afford are still able to participate. We'd also look at the benefits of memberships to include things like group fitness classes, aqua fitness, lane swimming, walking track, all at no additional charge. That being said, they wouldn't replace the way we already do those services, so if someone wants to come in and just go on the walking track, they'd be able to do that. There's nothing would change in regards to that. This would just be added benefits of membership. And really looking at this being a club that could provide, or this being a facility that could provide memberships for the entire family and leverage the existing assets that we have. So as a family with children, you could enroll your children or not enroll them, but have them participate in public swimming or skating or some of those drop-in programs in the gym. That would all be included as part of the membership package. And again, the equipment and programming would focus on drawing a variety of participants, being open and accessible to everyone, and that it's really welcoming of all, regardless of age, ability, or gender. This is the operating model that was presented to you in a previous report at Committee of the Whole, and I will break out some of these numbers. You'll notice that in year one of operating, we are projecting to lose money as we build up and as we ramp up, but that by year three, it does provide opportunity for a very substantial revenue source for the municipality. And these numbers are very conservative. I feel very comfortable suggesting to you that they're very conservative. And I also feel very comfortable saying to you that in year one, that is a worst case scenario. And so I'm going to kind of come back to that in a minute. But these are the price points that are developed as part of the operating model, recognizing that any kind of fee is always subject to the fee bylaw approach so every year we bring our fees to council for approval through a bylaw, and so that would be required. These are just numbers that were put out as an operating model, as a suggestion of what we could do financially within within the realm of these price points. So that being said, we're looking at around a $30 price range for an individual membership or $55 for a family. You'll see a cardiac rehab membership. So what we're looking at is those who, and I'll let the doctor from Southlake speak to it more, but there are thousands of people who are graduates of the cardiac rehab program within Southlake. So those who participated would continue to participate within our fitness facility at that price point. You'll also notice the assisted membership categories, which are there really as a way for those who can't afford otherwise to participate as a price point for them. These are the numbers that, based on those projections, again, are very conservative numbers at year end. And so what I want to explain when you look at these numbers, year one of 1,000 members, that's not 1,000 members for the whole year. That's 1,000 members by the end of the year of the first year. And so that's why that number is such a huge deficit initially, because we're building up to that 1,000 number. So the sooner we get to that 1,000 number, the less that deficit will be. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. And then by year three, we're talking about 1,385 members. And so one of the things that we've done, I'll speak to some of the municipal comparisons at the end, but those numbers are grounded in solid municipal comparisons. We are intending on operating this, if approved, in a very, very lean staffing kind of capacity. So we would have one full-time staff that would be added to our complement that would be a fitness programmer. And then during our hours of operation, we would have a staff member at the desk. That would be a series of part-time staff members, but this operating model was developed with the intention of one part-time staff member on at all times. And that full-time staff person we would add on as a contract initially to ensure that the operation is going as expected. And then the way the operating model was developed was that personal training and some of that programming would be offered on a commission-based approach. So individuals would, providing those services would only be paid when providing those actual services. So we're not paying them to stand around, we're paying them to actually deliver those services. So outside of the personnel expenses, I wanted to provide a little more context on some of those additional operating expenses. Some of them are standard, normal municipal kinds of things, but the one that I really wanted to highlight for you was that equipment lease number of $60,000 a year. So the intention there is to identify an opportunity where we would lease equipment. So rather than purchase equipment outright, we would lease it, build it into the operating expense so that we're positioned every 3 years. That's a 3-year lease. So we're positioned every 3 years to add new equipment without having to come back continuously for new capital. And then if we did decide to get out of that business, we're not stuck with a ton of extra equipment, and it allows us that opportunity to exit. Some of the municipal comparisons that we have identified, we looked at the following municipalities all currently operate municipally run fitness centers. So Bradford, Aurora, Vaughan, Richmond Hill, Markham, King Township, Whitchurch, Stouffville, Barrie, Mississauga, Brampton, Ajax, Oshawa, and Whitby. And so these are some of the key lessons we learned from those municipalities. They all have indicated that they operate fitness centers that operate at a net annual surplus. That being said, I do want to stress that every municipality accounts differently for things, and so there may be expenses accounted in one municipality one way and another municipality a totally different way. But all of those municipalities have indicated that they do generate a surplus within their fitness centers. That being said, the pricing and service delivery vary dramatically from municipality to municipality. So some chose to operate as a very high-end kind of exclusive membership-based club where their price point was higher than the private sector completely, and others offered at a more affordable rate. What we really identified was that the two of most relevance to us are Bradford and Aurora, both in the context of geography. They're both very close to us, but also Bradford's operating model is very similar to what we've proposed. And so Bradford has an operating model where they offer memberships in a range of $26 to $32 per month, depending on the category, which is very much in line with what we've proposed. And they peaked at 2,000 members. And if you'll recall, our membership numbers were around 1,385. So again, we feel that that's a conservative number. The other comparator being Aurora, though they operate in a very different way than we're suggesting to operate. They offer at a higher price point where an individual membership is in the $50 to $60 range. What's of most importance, though, is that they reopened after significant construction where they were closed for a long period of time, and within that first year hit close to 1,000 members within that first year of operation, which was that number that we identified within our operating model as numbers that we were hoping to achieve by the end of the first year.
Thank you. And before we entertain questions, just for the benefit of our viewing audience, Mr. Service, if you could give us a background on your experience with the fitness clubs and health clubs.
Sure. Prior to my beginning this role in towards the end of 2013, before I joined the Town of Newmarket, I worked for the City of Markham in their Recreation Services Division over the last 5 years, overseeing business planning and budget performance and those kinds of things within that department. And so the City of Markham has numerous fitness center operations. Prior to that, I spent 5 years with the YMCA as a general manager and vice president of health, fitness, and recreation operations in both Toronto and Western Ontario. So that would be London, St. Thomas, Woodstock, Strathroy, all of those organizations. And prior to that, I worked for a private resort and fitness complex for 4 years. So.
Thank you. I see you have Councillor Twinney and Councillor Sponga in the queue. Councillor Twinney?
Thank you, Colin. There's no doubt. I think it's a great idea. I mean, I think it's perfect fit for you know, people, families that are going there, dropping their kids off, even for swimming lessons. You know, moms and dads can go and have a workout, and just a great place, you know, to have it all in one place. We had talked about this previously too, about doing a fitness club and everything there. But I'm just like, we're talking about a location in there. Is that the ideal location there? We do have that other facility that's at the Magna Center. And I'm just wondering, you know, I mean, about space and, you know, I mean, all that kind of, you know, those details and what's the best fit for this?
Sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor, space is clearly at a premium at the Magna Center. We explored a variety of options, looking at all of our spaces and how we could most effectively utilize those spaces. And we felt that based on that analysis that the restaurant area on the second floor was the ideal location for a couple of reasons. One is the proximity to the change rooms. We wanted to have something very close so that we didn't have to add additional change rooms into the space and we could make use of existing facilities that were already there. We also wanted a space because one of the pieces of feedback that we hear often from individuals when they talk about a fitness center is wanting the ability to go and work out while their children are participating in programs. And so we wanted a space that could overlook the ice, so that if your child's out skating or having a skating lesson or playing hockey, you'd be able to do your workout still watching your child. And so that affords that opportunity to do that, as well as just the overall brightness of the space and where we go from there. So we felt, given those criteria, that it made the most sense from an operational standpoint. Regretfully, though, that does involve displacement of an existing business that's in that area.
I have Councillor Sponga here, and rather than getting, I will call forward the report, but there's two deputations that I think we should hear from before we give consideration to the report. Councillor Sponga, and then we'll receive the presentation.
Yeah, quick question. In regards to, and I have some more questions, and I'll save them for the report. But just on the presentation, you mentioned a number of neighboring municipalities that are running a similar program. Do any of them partner with a private fitness operator, or are they all solely operated and financed by the municipality?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Those municipalities identified all operate municipally run fitness facilities. What I can't indicate is whether or not they also have facilities that they may partner with the private sector on. Because some of those municipalities, especially the larger ones, operate multiple facilities. So every municipality that was listed, though, does operate at least one municipally run independent fitness facility.
Thank you. Might be appropriate to receive this presentation, but we may call you back when we deal with the report. Sure. Councillor Sponga, Councillor Hempin, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Let's go back now then to the original part of the presentations area of the agenda, and I'll call on Dr. Zev Wolfart to make a presentation.
Mr. Mayor, councillors, thank you for the opportunity. I'm Zev Wolfart. I'm the physician leader of the regional cardiac program in Newmarket, and it always surprises me that the local population in Newmarket don't actually realize the gem that they have in their own city. We're the third biggest cardiac program in Ontario, and we're the biggest electrophysiology program, which is dealing with arrhythmias, probably in the country. We've become world-renowned in a lot of the activities we do, all of them mainly relating to acute care. So we've become experts and international leaders in managing acute problems, but yet we fail, or not completely fail, but we're not quite as cutting edge in the rehabilitation part of the cardiac care network. So cardiac rehab is vital and extremely important to the health of patients and their ability to reintegrate into the community in a healthy lifestyle. Because of real estate constraints within the hospital, our rehab program was orphaned off to the tannery where we currently function. And that program has been extremely successful, and we get approximately 2,000 patients a year as new recruits to that program. They're in that program for 6 months, and that's a free program for them. But because of the success and the popularity and the social connectivity that these patients develop with each other, there's been a high demand to develop an alumni program, and we have over 5,000 alumni that are waiting and wanting to continue to exercise, live healthy lives, and have a place to connect with people that have had similar experiences and to share their distresses and successes. So when we found out that the town of Newmarket was interested in advancing their interest in exercise and rehab and family fitness, it dawned upon us that this may be a good opportunity to develop some partnerships and relationships with the town where we could share each other's successes and move forward in an innovative way. We've been cutting edge with research, and there are lots of research opportunities even within the rehab arena, looking at biomarkers and technology like cell phones and remote monitoring of hearts, and that we've been approached by multiple small companies or startup companies that want to test out and market their equipment. Having said that, the opportunities are vast, not only from a research and technology perspective, but from a cost sharing and profitability. And so we already have some partnerships with Sobeys, for example, where we have kitchens and teaching patients and families how to cook healthily and eat healthily. We have smoking cessation programs and family fitness programs which need expansion. So the one opportunity would be for us to partner in this venture that you're proposing at the Magna Center. We currently have our Walk of Life. We utilize the track for philanthropic purposes to raise funding, and the Magna Center is a beautiful site, and we've used that on occasion to host that event. We also have we rent space in one of the classrooms. We have 2 classes a week, I think, on a Wednesday. So there is some degree of connectivity and relationship, but we thought this would be an opportunity to expand that. And to the same purpose as Mr. Service had mentioned, you know, when the grandparents are coming to do their rehab, the grandchildren can be skating, and they can be part of a whole family exercise health program where exercise is medicine for the whole family. There are a whole host of other individuals that aren't accommodated. There's those with peripheral vascular disease, meaning have not central heart disease, but blockages in their peripheral arteries, we cannot accommodate in our rehab program, and they need exercise facilities and would even be willing to pay for it. So if we had that opportunity to partner, we could bring with us our whole alumni of 5,000 patients. We could bring the new recruits after their 6 months to participate, their families, their children, their grandchildren, the ability to offer educational programs on healthy lifestyle, smoking cessation, and healthy cooking. So we're here, I guess, in support of the concept of this exercise program, as well as asking for consideration of us as valuable partners, not only financially, but for health and welfare of the population. In terms of other ventures that could eventually transpire, we could go into philanthropic partnerships approaching wealthy people to donate and even name the program after themselves, as well as government lobbying for additional resources and funding that may be helpful to proliferate this new model of prehabilitation and rehabilitation and prevention rather than dealing with patients after they've had their disease process. I'll stop there, and if there are any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Clarification? Being none then, a motion to receive the presentation. Councillor Pezance and Councillor Hempen, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, Doctor. Tom. That's carried. Okay. Next item then is a deputation from Sabrina Reze. We permit up to 5 minutes for deputations.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I am Sabrina Rizai, current operator of the restaurant Sabrina's Pizzeria Bar and Grill located inside the Magna Center. I have been in business relationship with the town of Newmarket for almost 9 years. Since 2008, my company was awarded for the Rate 20 complex in Hollingsworth Civic Arena for an estimated financial return to the town of $152,618.48, plus 23% commission for Hollingsworth for 5 years starting September 1st, 2008 to June 1st, 2014.
Sabrina, I'll have you slow down. We'll get, if you need more than 5 minutes, I think we'll ask council to do that because it's awfully tough to follow this. Why don't we do that now, an extra 5 minutes? Councillor Kerwin, Councillor Vague, all those in favor?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 10 minutes then, okay?
Shortly after a few weeks of operation at Rate 20 Complex, Purchasing Department approached our company to operate the restaurant concession at Magna Center because there was no interest from other proponents. Therefore, our company was awarded on September 19th, 2008 to operate for a 1-year term starting October 1st, 2008 to May 31st, 2009 for $12,212.12 for a 1-year term. Therefore, our company was operating all 3 locations with no major complaint and no default in payment. Please see the performance evaluation from the town of Newmarket. In June 2009, our company was awarded another 5-year term for the operation of the restaurant for an estimated $146,900 for a 5-year term starting June 1st, 2009 to May 30th, 2014. Condition of this rental fee to remain the same was based on a capital investment of $50,000. Our company spent $50,000 plus in capital investment and renovations to the restaurant. During this contract term, we built a strong customer relationship, built sales, expanded our menu, and offered package deals to corporates and hockey league teams. During this time, we built a strong, loyal base customers, with hockey parents and grandparents enjoying our menu and watching a game at our restaurant. We have a petition signed from over 100 hockey parents whom support our business. During all these years of business, we've had no major complaints. Health inspection and liquor inspections are up to date. Certifications are available online. During our lease agreements, our rent is always on time and no default in payment. During these contracts, the town has received $25,000 in security deposit. We have good references and hockey parents appreciate us offering food services. In June 2014, RFP number 2014-04 was tendered out for the coffee kiosk, restaurant concession, and concessions at Ray 20 Complex, designed for a 5-year lease. Our company was awarded once again for a 5-year term for all locations except the coffee kiosk, currently run by Timothy's. In this lease agreement, originally the RFP number 2014-04, lease agreement was designed for a 5-year term. Director of Recreation amended the term for a 2-year term with a 3-year, 1-year optional renewal based on both parties agreeing. Please see attached of all the losses and damages in occurred. If town wants to terminate the lease before the 5-year term, they must pay for the damages that are outlined in the attached Appendix A. The RFP was advertised in the town's bidding system as a 5-year term. Therefore, Timothy's contract expires in 2018 and not our lease. The Ray 20 Complex rental lease is $119,780.90 for a 5-year financial return to the town. In this particular lease agreement, there is a non-exclusivity clause which we operated for 1 year. And in May 2014, 30-day notice notified Director of Recreation that we would exit our agreement as our non-exclusivity clause has affected our sales with the allowance of other vendors selling food and alcohol. The exit of this lease agreement in May 2014 was unfair and discriminatory. I voluntarily requested early exit in my lease and a penalty of 1 month rent. With a penalty of 1 month rent. Town has a right to terminate the lease in 10 days for unsatisfactory performance, but it wasn't in this case. Therefore, the penalty was paid on June 1st, 2014. During this exit, the locks were changed on June 1st, 2014. Locks were changed when payment was received and not in default. This was unfair, and the facility staff entering on-site taking false photos of the condition of the premises. Unfair fees were charged to my security deposit of $5,000. I was charged an unfair fee of approximately $1,500. I have emails and photos of conditions left of the premises in June 2014. The discrimination unfair practice conducted by call-in service seems like an attack on my business. There is ample evidence that he has been singling our business out over the others that operate in that facility. Mr. Service's proposal plan does not have a viable report or any information on whether a gym would be successful over my business operations at Magna. The mistreat of this incident and the unfairness of the facility managers was not professional, and I have taken my rights to the Human Rights of Tribunal. I have thought about this incident and the reactions of the Director of Recreations, and this shows me there is a form of discrimination going on. I say this because facility staff have been finding minor complaints about my operations, setting up meetings to discuss minor matters as small as a ketchup stain on the ramp when it's clear that the restaurant gets used when we are not open, even when our closing gates are up. These types of complaints are excuses, and by the recent actions of Mr. Service disclosing financial information of my lease to the media without my consent has caused significant harm to my business. Cancellation of Christmas parties because of this new proposal and misleading the public and town. Such as my business was ceased to operate or seeking for a rent reduction. These are clearly careless and unfounded facts that Mr. Service should have taken steps to confirm. The fact that he didn't, and it has
Sabrina,
impacted my business financially.
At this point, this is becoming a personal thing, and the discussion that we're having here is about the contract, the obligations within the contract, the requirement of both the landlord and the tenant to work with the contract, what those options are. So rather than getting into all of those items will be referred to staff, and if they have not already been investigated and if they have not already been dealt with, then those things will be addressed in the appropriate format. So I'm going to ask you to address the lease contract and the proposal that we're giving some consideration to. So I want you to stay away from any accusations at this point which people aren't here to appropriately defend and which have not been investigated. So I'll ask you to just go forward, and let's talk about the contract, the terms of the contract, the obligations of the municipality, the rights of your rights and the municipality's rights, if you could do that. Okay?
Okay.
I'll give you an extra few minutes to do that.
So you're not going
So it's the lease at Magna?
The lease at Magna is a 5-year term, Mr. Mayor. It was designed that way back in 2014 when we signed the agreement. And it's just been recent that it's been changed, and without my knowledge.
Okay, that's something that we're going to take. I can't necessarily accept that as a statement. You'll make that statement, and we'll have our people investigate that. Contracts don't change without prior knowledge, and so that'll be something that'll have to be resolved separately. Okay, so rather than making allegations, then let's stick with the discussion about the lease and the opportunities.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Sam Razai. I'm Sabrina's brother. Apparently, these are not accusations; these are facts there. So
I'm sorry?
As of his speech right there, we are allowed to say what has been done to her. She's been damaged at this rank in the past several years.
I think that's something that you're going to need to resolve as between, if you feel you have
to judge that.
If you feel you have legal rights that you have an opportunity to resolve, I think we should deal with that separately. We're not about to get into.
Well, this is a city hall. I mean, this is the town. We got to express our feeling, and we know what.
Okay.
Because
we do have that written down,
Right.
and that will be referred to staff to investigate.
I want to make. What's the reason we can't under?
Why can't I talk about what's happened to
Well,
me in
because-
7 years?
because-
All the councilors should be aware.
And they will be aware of what you've had to say here, but I can't permit you to malign people when they're not here.
So
to
meaning
defend
your
themselves.
staff is do something to our staff, so we're not.
No, I said that we'd investigate this. Anything that hasn't been resolved, we'll refer to staff and the appropriate
we
action
will
will
put
be
it on the
taken.
media. We will put it to Toronto Sun, Toronto Star, whatever it
I'm
goes.
sorry?
to. We'll publish it to Toronto Sun, Toronto Star, so
Well,
everybody can
I
understand.
think you can do whatever you decide to
Yeah.
do, whatever you think is
But here
appropriate.
we
That's
have
your
the right-
decision.
But
And
Mr.
the
Mayor-
outcome and the consequences will be yours. What I'm saying is, if there are some issues here that are unresolved, then there's a process to resolve those issues. But that's not what's being discussed here.
Okay, but going back to the facility, there's going to be a fitness there. We have a hockey arena there. I mean, Mr. Service says, I know him from Markham. He was working in Markham. He came 2013 to town of Newmarket. Apparently, those Markham they're not doing any good as this place there. So I don't know why they're bringing that service here. What good can be?
Well, those are two different sets of facts, okay?
Yeah.
And the facts that we're hearing are from our staff, and they've been researched, and we have the ability to verify that.
We have a contract with the city of Markham as well. And we have concession stands there, and there are gyms there as well, and they're not doing well.
We're talking to
Like
them
we-
there everyday basis. They're actually in loss there on the fitness there. I don't know how you can recoup the money and getting one woman business out of business, putting somebody else there.
Okay,
Based on
so
what conditions?
what I'm understanding then is that you're saying that you don't believe what the business case is will hold up. That's up to council to decide as to whether or not we have the confidence, whether that business model will hold up. So let's stick with the business model and what the
But
opportunities are.
it's not fair treated the business so far. So you can let us to read the rest of it, but that's fine. We're going to skip on that there, but we'll publish it for public to read it there, so that's
Yep.
fine.
Those are your options, and you have to decide what steps you want to take.
Okay.
But at the same time, what my commitment is to you is that this document is being referred to staff, and we'll ask staff to investigate these matters, and those things that are not already resolved will be reviewed. So we can leave it
Yeah,
at that.
if it
Okay?
doesn't resolve, the matter will go to the court there, basically.
That has to be your decision.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. That's it?
Motion to receive the deputation and to refer the document submitted. Councillor Sponga?
Yeah, I just have one question, clarification. I'm not going to touch some of the issues that could be deemed as litigation issues and so forth, and look forward in dealing with those issues at the appropriate time. What I wanted to ask you, just one clarification. Is your lease now being, has your lease expired, or will it expire?
No.
Or is the lease being terminated?
2018.
So, right now, is your lease being terminated, or is your lease expired? Just answer the question.
No, they're not expired. It's up for renewal for next year.
I think that matters a matter of interpretation, okay? So we'll refer that to our legal staff And,
So if to just get clarification, so you're saying it's not expired, it's not terminated, it's up for renewal?
Renewal, yes.
It's up for renewal right now?
But-
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But the original RFP that was sent out in your bidding system was designed for 5 years.
It was supersede for 5 years term of contract. So if anybody's altering it now for
And
2
in-
years, we don't know.
okay, thank you.
I just want to clarify that discussion, in terms of what the terms of the lease and the timing, that could be a matter for litigation. So the clarification I wanted was whether you're in a process of renewal right now, a process of termination, or a process of expiry of the lease. That's
If,
all.
it's
I
very
wanted to know.
simple. If the gym is taking over, we will be kicked out there. So they will be taking place our business by somebody else there. So it's very simple.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sheldon?
Mr. Mayor, if you'd like staff to respond to that question to give you the particulars of the existing lease, we could certainly do that.
Yeah, we will, yeah, we can do that, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, maybe when the report comes up, okay? Motion to receive this deputation, please. Councillor Sponga, Councillor Twinney, all those in favor? And that is, did I vote? Is that? We don't have a vote? My button's not. We do have a mover and a seconder, and, oh, you've got me, okay, thank you. Little technical difficulty here. Okay. Why don't we go forward then directly to item, what I refer to as item 9B. Item 9B is the Recreation and Cultures Report 2015-37, and that is the Magna lease space, and the recommendations are before you. So, can I bring this forward? I need a motion with respect to the recommendations. Regional Councillor, seconded by?
I will. The recommendations or the, to
We
bring
can,
forward?
well, we can bring it forward or have the recommendations.
Do you need a motion to bring it forward or no?
No,
Okay, sorry.
no, I'm looking for a motion with respect to the recommendations.
I'll move the recommendations with one amendment if I can find it.
Okay, is there a seconder?
Second it.
Okay, Councillor Hempel. Regional Councillor as the mover, and whatever modifications, and we'll get that as a concurrence, okay?
I'm just sort of quickly going over, but I just wanted.
I'm wondering, Regional Councillor, if you'd allow me, if we could have Mr. Service clarify the lease terms. I think that was an issue.
Sure.
Colin, okay, Colin, go ahead.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I think I'd like to do that, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I'm looking at the amending lease. It's dated June 1st, 2014. Under the term section, it does indicate that the tenant shall have and hold the premises for and during a period of time which shall be, unless sooner terminated, pursuant to other provisions of the original lease and landlord RFP, the period of time which shall commence on June 1st, 2014, and shall expire on May 31st, 2016. That's referred to as the term. The term may be extended for 3 one-year extensions upon agreement of both parties. So it is actually an expiring contract, and it was signed by the town and by Ontario Concessions.
Okay, thank you. Regional Councillor, back to you.
I turned on.
Okay.
And was there, is there anything you could comment on in regards to that it was originally put out as an RFP for 5 years? Is there, I don't understand that.
Go ahead, Mr. Service.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, the original RFP was a request for 5-year proposals. As is often the case with procurement processes, when bids come back, we can and do often negotiate with proponents depending upon their history to look at the terms of that agreement. We had concerns with the ongoing performance of Ontario Concessions, and so when their proposal was the only proposal submitted for that time period, we indicated to them that we would do a 2-year contract with 3 one-year options for renewal at the onset, which they signed as part of that agreement.
Okay, thank you. I guess my question at this point would be, given what we've been provided, and I'm not in any way saying this to endorse the veracity of what we've been provided, but it seems to me we should probably stand this down and go into camera, at some point, Mr. Mayor, and then deal with this later. And again, it's not. But I think it'd be hard to not do that if we're going to move this forward with finality tonight.
All right, let's with council's concurrence.
Am I able to ask a question at this point, or are we going to stand it down?
Let's stand it down. Let's get some legal opinions on an in-camera session. We'll need a 2/3 majority to have an in-camera discussion. So this matter will be referred. This will be referred to an in-camera discussion following the balance of the business. Okay. So we'll hold item number 9B, this report, down until after our in-camera session. Okay, and I believe, Councillor Hempton, you're okay with that?
No, I'm fine with that.
All right, so we'll have to wait and see. Will we have the benefit of our solicitor's advice?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The solicitor is not in attendance, but I understand from a briefing that I received from staff that they have been in consultation with the municipal solicitor in terms of the preparation of the report.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go back then to. Yep, I won't call for the in-camera session. That doesn't come into the agenda until following announcements. Yeah, after bylaws. Okay, so we'll come back to that. Councillor Smonga.
I just want to ask a question on this item through to staff. I just wondered, my understanding is that the lease is expiring then June 16th. Sorry, June of 2016. I'm just wondering because to echo the comments of there's some of Councillor Taylor, there's some very serious allegations being made here. And I'm just, I wonder, would it be an opportunity to defer this item to a committee of the whole sessions where we have the benefit of our legal staff and when we holistically get an understanding of, first of all, what is the basis in which we are not renewing the lease, my understanding is. And then we can also move forward and have a clear understanding of the deal that what we're dealing with, rather than dealing with a report where we really don't have the benefit of our solicitor here to give us some advice in terms of what some of potential legal action may be associated with the decision today.
Thank you. Councillor, our CAOs advises that they have had some briefing documents. Let's have the benefit of that, and then we can decide as to whether or not we might want to defer that after having had that discussion.
The question, Mr. Mayor, is why are we in a hurry to move this forward tonight? To you, Mr. Mayor, first.
Okay. Mr. Shelton, the timelines.
Mr. Mayor, in talking with the commissioner and the director, I think the timelines are important. Staff would be moving forward with the RFP for the balance of the space in the facility. So I think that might give some additional time to this, but I'd ask either the commissioner or the director to respond to that.
Mr. McDougall?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the critical aspect of the timing for us is to ensure that that we've got the appropriate capital budget inclusion so that we could act on the renovations. The targeted opening for this facility would be January 1st of 2017, and we feel we need that whole amount of time to do a comprehensive design, costing, and for the renovations and do the renovation work. So the other added complexity to the timeline is that, as the CEO had mentioned, there are a number of lease spaces within the facility that we are looking to go out on a public tender for, and knowing the use of this particular space actually determines to some extent the approach we would take in terms of timing of issuing the rest of those tenders. So is it absolutely critical? No, but is it important to us in our view to move forward as quick as possible? We feel it is.
can have that discussion in camera, and if a deferral is in order, then we can do so after we've had that discussion. But the request was to discuss these items in camera, and I think that's quite appropriate to do. Okay, so next item then is the approval of minutes, Council of November the 16th. Council, yep.
Have we had a vote on this? Don't you require 2/3?
That's when we deal with the item. When we get to the closed session, okay, then we'll need a 2/3 majority to have that. So we can.
I just wanted to ask a question before that.
Okay, we'll let you do that before we go into that.
Would you?
that vote.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. You'll remind me. Okay, thank you. Council minutes of November the 16th. Councillor Kerwin, seconded by Councillor Sponga. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Special council minutes of November 30th. Councillor Sponga, seconded by Councillor Hempen. All those in favor? Reports by regional representatives.
Thanks very much. There's just two things I want to highlight this evening. The first one is that Thursday Regional Council meets, and we'll be moving forward the various committee budgets that have come forward. And at this point, the budget is at a 2.85% increase. That sees significant increases in policing, a very significant increase in investment in roads, and also investments in transit. There's a great deal of detail online, and obviously anybody can contact either the mayor or myself for more information or questions. The other thing I'd like to raise is that last week the mayor and myself, Mayor Dov Aurora, and the member of Provincial Parliament for Newmarket Aurora, Chris Ballard, met with Stephen Del Duca, the Minister of Transportation, in regards to the RER, or the All-Day Go train service that's being slowly rolled out throughout the GTA. This is not the first time that we've had an opportunity to raise questions. They've been in front of council and in front of regional council. Both the mayor and myself have attended the corridor committee meetings with elected representatives along the corridors. In all of these instances, we have raised concerns or areas of concern. Obviously, we begin by expressing support for RER and the all-day go in general, and we know a lot of our residents will benefit from that enhanced service. But we still have to, regardless, raise those areas of concern, and one of those is parking at our facilities. We know the tannery is extremely stressed, and so we raise that. Also at grade crossings and how that causes train whistles, and we've been having numerous discussions about that. There are studies that are being undertaken by Metrolinx to examine both the issues of parking and at-grade crossing, and those studies over the next year will be released and will show the various issues and levels of need at different areas and where they will be addressing them or where they will not be addressing them. The other area that they're going to be coming out with next year is a study into the need for new stations. There are several areas within in the Greater Toronto area that's being looked at for potential new stations. And as a council, we've sent our own motion forward, and we've highlighted this at the region and in various meetings. In fact, we've been highlighting this as a town going back decades, and it's been recognized by GO themselves prior to being Metrolinx, that there is potential for a new station at Mulock and the train tracks, which of course is very close to where we're sitting right now. That was the primary purpose of this meeting. We had a very good discussion with the minister. There is a study that's going on into various locations for new stations. They've reduced the study down to 50 locations, and we are on that, if you can call it a short list. We are on that short list. We highlighted again that the advantage of not necessarily needing expansion of parking in Aurora and Newmarket at the tannery if a new station were implemented with parking there, and so there would be costs saved at other locations while this moved forward. And so it was a good discussion. Obviously, the minister can't prejudge the outcome of the study, but we just making sure that there's a great level of awareness on this. and that we put forward the strongest case we possibly can in every opportunity we possibly can. And we think that was accomplished, and we really thank Mayor Daw and MPP Ballard for participating in that discussion.
Thank you. Any questions? A motion to receive. Councillor Bazans, Councillor Broom-Plumley, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Reports of committees and staff. First item is the Committee of the Whole minutes of November the 30th. Are there any items that members wish to deal with separately? Councillor Kerwin?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just a comment with regard to the minutes of November the 30th, and I refer to Councillor Bazance for comments earlier today at a special committee of the whole in the morning about referring something back to staff, giving them the time to do it. And I'm delighted to see that Colin Service came forward with a report which was recommended from this committee, Mr. Mayor, that came forward tonight. So it was referred back for the detail, and it's come forward again tonight, and I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
And the other thing I would like to say is that, you know, we come to council and about twice a month, but a terrific amount of work is done in Committee of the Whole. I mean, some of these Committee of the Whole meetings go for 4 or 5 or 6 hours, and we have many of them, Mr. Mayor. So it's not as if these are just all of a sudden we're making decisions at the council. Many of them were made in Committee of the Whole, and then they're redebated at council, Mr. Mayor, for a final conclusion. This was one of them, the recreational playbook and what was in that recreational playbook and the use of the Magna Center. We gave them 2 weeks to come up with a proposal. I think that's, and I salute you, Christina. It's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Broom-Plumley, any items you wish to deal with separately?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 18, Reedus Avenue Trail.
Okay. Any other items? There weren't any declarations, were there? Okay, good. Okay, could I have a motion then to adopt the minutes and the recommendations of all items with the exception of item number 18?
So moved.
Councillor Kerwin, Councillor Vague. All those in favor? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. Item number 18, we have the recommendations. Could I have a motion with respect to the recommendations, please?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
The recommendations.
You're moving the recommendations, and Councillor Kerwin. Okay. Councillor Broom-Plumley, speaking as the mover.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I echo Councillor Kerwin's sentiment with regards to the work being done over time and through staff and through the Committee of the Whole. I'm supporting this item for that very reason, that staff and residents and member of councils have put a number of hours of work into the Reedus Trail project. This project is of a tremendous benefit in terms of trail connectivity. I'd like it to be an exciting project for the residents that are neighboring the trail itself, and I feel it is the best use of our budget. But I also want to make it clear that there's still more work to be done. There's still a public information session that is going to be coming. It is item IA2 in the motion itself that's going to bring the public forward to help them shape the way that this trail is going to be. And I'm looking forward to see the full plan of this path presented at that public information center, giving the residents an opportunity for their input in shaping the way that this trail will look and how it will benefit for the community. I just wanted to make sure that residents understood that this is not a final decision and that there will be an opportunity for the public to provide more input. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kerwin is the seconder.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the trails through Newmarket, everyone knows that they're absolute jewels, and I've always had a great feeling either do it right, and we're trying to do this right, or don't do it at all. And there are some refinements there, and I can accept that. So this is the purpose of this project, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hempin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe last year this council approved a budget of around $300,000 for this work to be done.
And now we see an item that's from $300,000 up to $630,000. And I'm wondering if I can get I'd like to get an explanation through you, Mr. Mayor, from staff as to why this additional $330,000 is in front of us.
Mr. Nohammer.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the project scope did change with respect to the trail. The original budget envisioned a fairly simple trail through this corridor out to Yonge Street. On the direction of committee, staff were asked to go back and explore alternative options for the trail design, which included preserving further vegetation and trees on the trail, minimizing the width of the trail itself, and exploring opportunities for conveyance of some lands to adjacent owners. The primary reason for the increased cost also relates to stormwater management. The features of the trail now include ways in which the drainage is captured and reintroduced into the ground and through infiltration, and also through permeable pavement on the trail itself. These environmental benefits come at a cost premium, and that's predominantly why the costs have increased to $630,000. It does also include all of costs related to the project, including design, holding the PIC, contingencies, and taxes and the like.
Thank you. Councillor Twinney, then Councillor Bazance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This, I guess, started off back in a previous term, this discussion on this trail, and I think one of the thoughts was to not even implement the trail in this area, and it's an area actually I went and looked at myself, and I know because some of the residents there really didn't even want a trail there, and that's why I think this is something that we were looking at, and subsequently we voted to go ahead with the trail, and it was going to be $300,000 as previously just mentioned, and now we're up to $630,000. And when I'm looking at option 2, which is a more expensive one, we're talking about preserving trees, but in this it says cons, more trees will be removed to accommodate the closer trail alignment to the courthouse property line, because I guess it's moving back away from the back of the property line. But I thought that was some of the issues that the residents had, was the fact that they were trying to preserve trees. So I'm a little confused on what this trail looks like different than the original one, I suppose. Then that is because this one's now saying that we're removing more trees, when the residents, through you, Mr. Mayor, that was a concern of theirs, that they wanted to keep the trees.
Mr. Nohammer?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there are 2 options that were presented at Committee of the Whole. Option 1 had the trail centered more within the space allocated to implement the trail. Option 2 shifted it further away from the homes and more towards the property to the north, the courts, and the parking lot there. When it speaks to additional trees, those are the trees that were up against the courts parking lot, not necessarily the trees that were adjacent to the residents and their backyards. In option 2, in fact, more of those trees are preserved. And also there, I should mention that with respect to the trail implementation, there will be new trees introduced and landscaping as part of the low-impact development features, as well as landscaping itself on the trail. So while there are some trees that will be removed on the north side, there will be additional trees planted.
And sorry, through Mr. Rowan, how long is this? Big is this trail? How long is it?
I don't have the dimension in front of me, but it extends from the end of Rita's Avenue, where it reaches Tom Taylor Crescent, out to Yonge Street.
So you don't have, like, is it like half a kilometer, 200 meters?
It would be in the report, in the Committee of the Whole report. I can get that figure certainly for you.
That would be, you know, I mean, I don't know, just, I'd like to see, I mean, my apologies, I should have had that information, but it just seems like a lot of money, you know, to have that big of a jump and going to 630,000 and for an area, I mean, I don't know exactly how long this area is, and I can't see it in the report. I mean, I'd like to know compared to other costs of trails, I don't know, I mean, do we have to use permeable? I know it's, obviously it's the best thing to do is have permeable paving, but the rest of our trails don't have that. And is there any way of making this more cost effective at all? And
It's roughly 200 meters.
is it 200 meters?
Roughly, according to the map and the legend.
Okay, thanks.
So I guess the question, Mr. Nohammer, is how does this compare to our current trail costs?
Well, I guess the option one cost, I believe, was slightly less than 600,000. It was on the order of 465,000. That would be fairly typical of the trail costs. The premium for option two, as I mentioned, was related to the stormwater management features that allowed the drainage swales and ditches at each side of the trail to become flatter and allow it to be more usable in terms of landscape space.
Okay, thank you.
With respect to managing the costs, certainly what we will do is try to economize where we can. There are some elements within the budget related to seating areas, for instance, that are discretionary, so we might be able to remove some of those features from the budget. That will all be outlined through the design work, and as Councillor Broom-Plumley mentioned, there's a PIC that will entertain the input from the community as well.
So this will be coming, sort of through Mr. Ray, so this will be coming back to us after the PIC, after we get the comments received? Does it come back to us?
I don't believe it will come back unless it's requested.
Yeah, unless it's requested. So what, on approving the capital budget, we would be providing the delegated authority to go forward with the project, provided it's within the identified budget amount. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Bazance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we did discuss this at the Committee of the Whole, I was one of the lone opposition to this proposal because, similar to what Councillor Twinney has indicated, you know, I found that the price tag for a trail that, you know, it's not really a bucolic, meandering kind of through the woodsy path trail, but I guess rather more of a shortcut that will facilitate some people being able to enter into the subdivision or leave the subdivision and access Yonge Street rather than having to go to further points to be able to do that. So I was quite surprised at the price tag, given that my understanding was initially a number of the residents opposed the placement of the trail in the first place. And you know, quite frankly, if I were a resident and I was faced with, you know, having to have a trail there, of course I would be favorable to moving it as far away from my home as possible and putting up all kinds of buffers and making it as nice as possible. But I'm also considering that it's a lot of money, and is there an opportunity to, you know, do something that would be palatable if the trail does have to go in there for less cost, and then free up some funds to also provide trail linkages in other parts of that neighborhood, specifically to connect the north and south subdivision, parts of the subdivision, right up through the Ray Twinney complex. So we'd be connecting the George Lousby Park through Hydro Corridor into the Ray Twinney Park. You know, just to look at some options that might exist to spend money the same pot of money, but perhaps in a way that we could get more trail options and connectivity. So perhaps that's kind of thinking very boldly, but that was my concern and the reason that I opposed this in the first place, and I won't be supporting this motion today. Having said that, I'm always interested in what the public has to say, so I'll certainly be attending the Public Information Center, and I would hope that a number of the residents from that area are also in attendance and provide us with their comments.
Mr. Noheimer, can I clarify, is what we're proposing now a new standard level for trails, or how does this compare to the existing standards?
This is a trail that features sort of an innovative surface in that it's permeable paving in an attempt to reduce the width of the trail itself. I would say that as we engineer and design trails throughout town, we're always looking for opportunities to improve the way stormwater is managed, and this was one of those opportunities where we were able to introduce some features through economizing the width of the trail. The typical trail standard would not include that porous pavement as a matter of course, although it has been done in some cases on an as-needed basis for special reasons. I should say that within the 2016 capital budget, staff has included elements of trails studies and trails planning to enable some of the other trails, which Councillor Buzantz has mentioned, to take place in the subsequent years, including in the Hydro Corridor. These would be trails that were envisioned in the development charges background study, and so there are DC reserves that are available to fund the implementation of some of those additional trails in the coming years.
Thank you. Regional Councillor?
Very much. Beyond the DC dollars that come from development charges from developers through DCs, do we also collect money from the developers on a per unit basis to fund trails throughout the town? And can you just elaborate on that?
In addition to the development charges, there are development levies that are collected from developers of subdivisions in town through voluntary contributions to enhance the implementation of trails with respect to developments itself. So there are additional funds collected from developers for that purpose.
Thanks. You know, I'm in support of this this connection, and there's numerous reasons. And first of all, we've been dealing with this for a while. I believe I'm correct in saying that we've acquired some of the land on this parcel close to Yonge Street from a developer some time ago for this very purpose. Can you also maybe just remind us of that?
Mr. Noheimer?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. The lands that the trail is being constructed on were conveyed in either 10 years or a little bit more than 10 years. It predates my time with the town, but certainly a number of years ago for the municipal purpose of implementing this trail connection to Yonge Street.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So, I mean, to summarize, I get my feeling is that I support this, and I guess we can always stop and say, do we have the perfect solution? And maybe we can revisit it and find something that's slightly better or slightly more perfect. But the fact is, this has been something that's been on the books for some time. We acquired land from a developer a long time ago, and we told the developer we needed this land for a trail. You know, whether it's this project, a recreation project, another trail in every ward, we can debate about whether we can, you know, narrow it down, and we should always revisit cost, and we can remove some benches. But the other thing is creating, I mean, the trails are a point of pride in this town. They are something that are absolutely exceptional, and that I'm yet to see one that people said, oh, darn it, that's too bad we have that in town. It provides an amazing amenity. It keeps people healthy. It allows children greater access. And frankly, as Yonge Street develops, there's going to be more and more amenities out there and restaurants and shops in 10 or 20 years from now, and we need to think that far in advance, that people are going to want to access through trails like this. And the more we can do within reason, I personally think we should pursue. We've gone back and forth on this. The ward councillor met with residents to try to find an amenable solution that was kind of a half win-win. We've done that. There's a little more cost involved. I guarantee we're not going to get this through in any way for the original $300,000. And yeah, we could revisit it again, but my feeling is it's been looked at numerous times. We've had this on the books for a long time. Trails are always something that we look back on after they're completed, and certainly a decade later as the area develops and go, it's great amenity to provide to people. And we've got projects and trails and recreation facilities in every ward in town. And yes, we have to turn over every dime and look at it, but at some point we also have to say it's time to move forward and get it done. And I think we need to move forward and get this trail done, and I'm sure it will be appreciated for generations to come and provide great connectivity and healthier living. So I'd like to see us move forward, and I will be supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Kerwin.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Just earlier today, we had a representative from South Lake with regard to cardiac, and we're the center for that, and we're allocating space possibly in the Magna Center down the road. But walking is one of, and that's what we need, for a place for people to walk, and that's what we're trying to provide. But I go back to the trail systems now over 40 years, being almost an octogenarian. And again, at the beginning, when Tom and I and Bob Scott and Doris Blair began the trail systems, and we began to buy land along the Holland River, again, it was looked at adversely. What were we doing taking land when we could have taken money? Well, we took the land. And you take a look at the Tom Taylor Trail with just the renovation of the west side. I walked that today, going back to Main Street. And I was so proud of it, not just the west side, but the east side as well. And then we did the Dave Kerwin Trail, and I ran into the same conflict with the Dave Kerwin Trail. We had a pick, and the residents up there wanted us to move the trail, and we did that. And it's this trail system that we're providing here in this link to Yonge Street is no different than what we did there. And if you go and take a look at that, we had extra costs too, because we had to put in a bridge. And I really hope that trail goes right through eventually to the Green Lane. But once you put trails in, there's very little cost to it. It's one of the greatest recreational facilities that we have. Better than the Magna Center, the Ray Twinney Complex, no matter what it is. The trail systems accommodate hundreds and hundreds of people every day. In Tom's ward, Tapestry, I'm looking at a connection from Leslie Street right through to College Manor eventually. And we'll be looking at those funds. But the trail systems, as our regional councillor has said, or Deputy Mayor, sorry, John, has said, it's a tribute, really, to the town of Newmarket. And I can support it. Once it's there, 2 years from now, people say, am I ever glad you did it and you did it right? So I can support it.
Thank you. Councillor Hempen and then Councillor Spanga.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with many of the comments. I think our trail systems are incredible, and we're very fortunate for all the hard work that's gone into creating these trails throughout our town. And I know for a fact that my family uses the trail system quite often on a regular basis, and we see many people using the trails. So I think it is a wise use of our tax dollars in creating these types of trails. I am very much in favor of this trail connection. I am having a hard time with the $630,000 when we saw it at $300,000 before. And for that reason, I would like to see the trail happen, but not at a cost of $330,000 in additional costs. I believe that money could be used in a better area of creating more trails within our town, and that we are a steward of the money that is coming to us. So I will not be supporting it as it stands. And I would like to get some clarification through you, Mr. Mayor, from staff. If this motion were to fail, would staff be coming back with perhaps an alternative design, budget?
Mr. Nohammer.
Well, I guess at that point, through you, Mr. Mayor, we would be in your hands with respect to how to proceed on either implementing this trail or not implementing this trail. I think staff has responded to the direction of committee and council in the past with respect to coming forward with two options on this particular project. So I guess I would ask for council's direction with respect to how to proceed on the trail if this were not to pass.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sponka.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to our Commissioner, is there an opportunity to seek further funding from either the Lake St. Clair Conservation Authority or other provincial programs that are now promoting low-impact development, and the elements that you're proposing fit within those criteria? But is there any funding model or funding opportunities, sorry, outside of the taxpayers of the town of Newmarket?
Mr. Nohammer.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just was refreshing my memory on the report itself, and in the budget impact section, it does speak to grant opportunities that may also be available through the LSRCA for instance in the low-impact design features and some of the costs associated with the stormwater management treatments that were going into option 2.
Do we know what those grants, what the number associated with those grants are?
No, I do not have a figure for those grant opportunities.
So we don't know if it's a $10,000 grant or $100,000.
That's correct. I don't know the magnitude.
Would there be an opportunity to get that information?
I guess we can consult with the LSRCA with respect to what magnitude of grants would be available for this particular type of project. Certainly we could try and provide that information.
Also, Mr. Mayor, through you to the Commissioner, is there an opportunity to quantify the impact that reduced storm flow would have on our system and potentially savings associated with that? I realize it's a very short trail. It's not like the parking lot at Upper Canada Mall.
Right.
But is there an ability to quantify those savings?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that has not been quantified to date. I suppose an estimate could be derived from the design consultant who prepared the two options. There was also the benefit, as I mentioned before, of trying to economize space of the design itself so that the drainage ditches or swales beside the trail in option number 1 were reduced and the area was made more usable and flat with option number 2. So there was sort of greater economy of space made so that the opportunity for the trail to be provided and a greater conveyance to the adjacent homeowners was possible with option 2 as well.
I tell you, from rather than see this new this proposal or the recommendations lose tonight, if there was an opportunity to get some understanding of what the grants look like from the Conservation Authority, I think that would benefit myself personally quite a bit. Even if the savings, was in the $50,000 to $100,000, I think it'd be something that could sway a lot of people's minds. I'm very excited about the opportunities that we have in terms of low-impact development to start implementing those. But again, I think the cost of $300,000 per 100 meters, I think at this point is a concern to me. So I would, I'll see what the discussion is at the table, but I wouldn't mind deferring this perhaps to another, to the next committee of the whole. And see if there's an opportunity to get an understanding of what sort of financial assistance we can get from the Conservation Authority, or do you think that that financial assistance wouldn't be to the extent that would offset the cost to
the incremental cost?
Substantial, yes.
Well, as I mentioned, I can't give you a definitive answer, but there are some other grant programs that we're working with LSRCA on that are in the $100,000 range for contributions to projects. So it is I don't think you would be far off when you mentioned the $50,000 to $100,000 range in terms of possible grant opportunities. And I do see that it's about a 200-meter trail, as the Deputy Mayor indicated before.
So if...
Okay, Councillor, we'll take you out of the queue, okay, because we have to keep putting you back in.
Oh,
So,
okay, so
okay,
I'll
go ahead.
the button. I would be tempted to, Mr. Mayor, to propose a motion to defer this item to the next committee of the whole, pending some additional information in terms of what the grant opportunities are within the Lakes and Conservation Authority and potential other provincial grants if available.
Okay, that would be the, Mr. Sheldon, that would be the Budget Committee of the Whole at that point, would it not?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the next Committee of the Whole, I believe, is January the 11th. I'm not sure if that is sufficient time to get an answer from the Conservation Authority. But if I could, Mr. Mayor, a question was asked earlier about is there the need to come back to Council with this project once the budget is approved? And typically that's not the case, but Council has on occasion flagged a project making that a requirement, that you do come back, and just as the Commissioner indicated, under the budget impact, it does indicate that should be noted that there are opportunities to reduce the trail implementation costs through the detailed design stage. So we're not there yet, and also the business of grant opportunities. So that is another approach that you can take to advance it to the point where you have more information to see what a more accurate number looks like.
So it gives us the option then to provide for it in the budget, but not to spend the funds unless Council receives a further report and authorizes the go forward on that. So that seems to be a good compromise. I do have a deferral request.
Just a clarification on the deferral, Mr. Mayor. Would we still be able to proceed with the PIC regardless of the deferral motion? Or would that have to be spelled out? I'm not sure. Mr. Browerman.
The recommendations are that we go forward with the PIC. That might give us some additional insight in terms of what option we might want to explore.
Right. So my idea would be that if there was a way of crafting a motion that allows us to go ahead with the PSC, but also having staff come back, and your approach may be the right one, just amending this motion, that the project come back to Council. But really, the only information I'm looking for is if there's an opportunity for some cost savings and grant opportunities. I'm in your hands, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So what you're proposing there is that to add an additional recommendation that this project be referred to Council before it goes forward, following the PIC and further information. So
further information provided in regards to detailed design and how much detailed design can do, and grant opportunities.
And grant opportunities.
And I'll stand down my motion to defer that, Mr. Mayor.
Well, okay, but I'll ask the mover and the seconder, which is Councillor Broom-Plumley and Councillor Kerwin, if you see that as a friendly amendment.
I see that as friendly.
Okay. Councillor Kerwin?
And then I have a question.
Okay. The amendment is? Yeah, that a further report, and that further information be provided with respect to detailed design and further information related to Conservation Authority provincial grant opportunities prior to commencing the project, I think was the intent, was it not? Prior to commencing, yeah, approval of, or commencing of the project. Mr. Sheldon, is that the kind of language that's operative for you?
With the understanding, and Mr. Commissioner, if you could just check me on this, and that is that there would have to be an advancement of the design to a certain stage to start to look at what are the opportunities for reduction.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for those additional comments. That we're anticipating having a sufficiently detailed preliminary design to take to the PIC so that we can actually show members of the community what the project looks like and to get some comments back. So we would need to undertake some design work to actually go forward with the PIC, and then taking those comments into account, finalize design, and then go forward to construction.
So we'll be doing that in any event that we would be going forward with the design to get that. Okay, so I have that as a friendly amendment, and does that capture the intent, Councillor Swan, what you see on the screen?
Yep.
Okay, that clarifies your question, Regional Councillor? No, but you asked for clarification. Yeah, okay. So I now have Councillor Broom-Plumley and Councillor Kerwin and Councillor Twinney in the queue.
I guess I'm looking to Councillor Twinney and Councillor Pezance, if having this come back to council again after the PIC, would you consider that a friendly? I just need to understand that.
I can't hear you. Okay.
I don't know why. Councillor Twinney and Councillor Pezance, do you consider that friendly as well? I'd like to see you both speak to the option of having it come back to council again prior to the decision.
I'll let them speak. I have Councillor Twinney in the queue. First I have Councillor Kerwin, and then I'll leave it up to Councillor Pezance as to how she wished to respond. Councillor Kerwin.
Just clarification through you, Mr. Mayor, to our Commissioner, Peter Neuhammer. The fees for the trail system on every unit that's built was at one time $1,000, and then it went correct to $1,500. Am I correct through you to Mr. Shelton? So just so we all know the figure, $1,500. It's allocated for trail system specifically. It was a stroke of genius by our CAO when he got all the developers to volunteer this amount of money for the trail system. So we're spending money on trail systems that was allocated by development. And in this area, how many units were built? Does anyone know? 100? 200?
In this specific area?
Yes.
Oh, that's, I don't know.
Or you know, the amount of money that was collected for trail systems specifically, and as John says, we got the land. It's a factor when you consider trail systems that the money is specifically there for the trail systems. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're spending it on.
So an estimated number of housing units, Mr. Sheldon, 500, 600, or?
Mr. Mayor, I do not have that number, but both the voluntary contribution towards trails and the DC component towards trails, it's more based on, comprehensive plan, I guess, if you like, of the trail system through the town. So, and it does serve, there's quite a significant number that are served in that area, and I think one of the earlier reports did set that out, what this trail would serve, if you wanted to look at it that way. I just don't have that number.
Okay, thank you.
That's a factor in considering the vote, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Twinney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess there's a couple of things here, and it was a couple of years ago now that I was out there, and I guess part of it is I think the design of that area wasn't probably designed really well. There could have been an option that would have been a better trail connectivity that would have, people could have gone down the street and then digged over and then gone down that side of that piece of land that's on that corner lot there. That's the house there. Sorry, I've just forgotten what it is. So I guess that's part of like the design. It probably wasn't really designed properly from the start. That's my just personal thought, that it could have been done a little bit better and would have had a shorter trail system that would have been the connectivity would have been shorter. Because I do see that there is obviously you do want to have connectivity. And I guess the other part of it is it's tough when we get a price tag of $5,000 and then it jumps up and it's more than double. So I guess that's it's part of the hard pill to swallow. But I certainly will support that we move forward to go and find out what kind of grants are out there, what possibilities are out there to try and make this, because it's not a very large, long piece of trail system, to try and not make the price tag so high and come down with some cost. But I'd also like to find out and get some information back from the PIC before we make our final decision. I think that's always good information when the public, these are the people that live here and they're going to be part of this community. If we get their feedback, I think that's information that's good for us to have as well. So if that's included as part of the motion and how we're going to proceed forward, I will support it.
I think that's captured under the last item. Regional Councillor?
Thanks. I'm just wondering if we don't want to tweak these recommendations a little bit, though, to manage public expectations a little. I mean, if there's some significant reservation by part of council, which is fair enough, and we're going to go to a PIC, I mean, should we have it that it's council endorses option 2 for the proposed trail connection for use at the PIC? And should we be directing staff to ensure that the PIC provides various options or recognizes perhaps even a no trail option if that's a possibility where council's going to go? Because we're now going by the last recommendation suggesting that, well, we'll wait to see what the financial picture looks like or if there's other opportunities for funding, and and council as a whole may say, oh, okay, hang on, we're not moving forward. I think we've got to be a little cautious in how we handle a PIC under that scenario. So I'm just putting that out there for consideration. I don't know if staff have comment if this is okay, if this is normally how we would do the PIC, or if this is a little different, and should we manage the recommendation slightly differently in light of that?
Mr. Sheldon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that is a good idea to make sure that you do manage expectations. We have run into that in the past. And perhaps the second recommendation, and that staff organize and hold a public information center to obtain public feedback, something to the effect that would assist council to determine what, if any, type of trail goes through that area. Something along those
something
lines.
Like that would be.
That could work as a direction to staff, or if you want that to be reflected as an amendment.
I think we should probably put in a number 2 that hold the public information center to obtain exactly. That would do it, and then maybe that the trail connection from Breeze Avenue, Yonge Street be included in the 2016 capital budget. For reserves and something about subject to approval.
Subject to approval?
Or
Yeah. Grant opportunities prior to the approval of the project. Is that in the last paragraph? It's there. Is that captured? And I think we've added subject to approval as well.
It just says further information be provided. I mean, it's in the budget. Anyway, it's fine. Whatever. I mean, it's rather. I just think we should put a couple of comments in there. If this is truly a bit of a rethink about whether we're going to do this or not, or to what degree, then I think we should make sure the PIC reflects that and not reflects a typical PIC where, hey, we're deciding to go forward. Would you like to make comments about lighting or, So anyway, I'll leave it there.
Okay, I for one would like to see the trail go through. I think that it's an important connection going into that neck of the woods. It's all part of our active transportation. Looking at the options between the option number 1, which I think was 465,000, as compared to 630, maybe those 2 options should be put forward. And I guess the question that I have to ask myself is, are we setting a different standard than what we would expect from the developer? And when we see developers are doing projects, we're requiring them to do the lid and those conservation stormwater management projects. And so if we're going into the lower one, then are we setting a different standard for our own trails as we would for our expectations with other projects from developers? I personally would like to see us go out with the 2 options, A and B, find out what the PIC tells us, and then make a decision based on that. If the suggestion of not putting the trail through, I think we'll probably regret that for a long time if we don't do that. Councillor Bazans and then Councillor Vague, and then maybe we can get to a decision.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And first of all, let me just reinforce, I'm not a trail hater, and in fact, you know, I'm on the trails in this town a lot, either walking or running or bicycling, and feel that it is one of the benefits and wonderful amenities that we have. My issue with this particular one was based on the sticker price. I have to admit that I had sticker shock when we got the proposal, and you know, as we've already discussed, that I think it's a big decision to make. And today we spent a lot of time talking about our capital budget and getting input from the staff about choices and priorities. Some things that might have been more of a priority for some of us didn't even make the cut. And, you know, I think we have to accept that based on the best available information that we get from the staff and that we know from input that we receive from residents and so forth. So my positioning on this was really based on, we've got a lot of things to consider, we've got a lot of priorities, and I just really wouldn't want to be sort of spending my whole budget on this particular trail if there are some other options. Having said that, I think we've now spent the time and we've given some more consideration on how we might be able to still achieve what we want in terms of the trail connection, but look at it in a way that's a little bit more efficient and cost effective. So I'm amenable to that and I can support that. I certainly am very supportive of the low impact development and the need for us to be doing more of that, whether it's the developers doing it or the town is doing it, and things that we're building and improving. I think it is a little different standard to expect from developers, and in return for low impact development, my understanding is they're able to get more lots out of the land because they don't have to use so much for stormwater management and so forth. So they're getting a big benefit and financial incentive from that too. So it's a little different, I think. So I'm more amenable to this than I started out with the original proposal. And as I said earlier, I do look forward to hearing what the public input is and what the residents have to say. And hopefully this is something that we could accomplish without also having to defer other things that are also, I believe, priorities in the community.
Thank you. Councillor Vague, we'll call a question.
Thank you very much. First, I'd say I really enjoyed listening to this conversation. And one of the things I'll tell you that I don't hear is anybody saying that they're not in support of the trail. Really, what I'm hearing is that they want it scaled back. I think the reality of this is a convenience for residents, and it's primarily for local use. I don't think you can talk about it as if like some other trails that we have, but that's still important. The question also came up regarding the standards for the trail. The fact is that we do have different standards for trails. I've got a very significant trail going from Comfort Lane, it's about 1 kilometer or so, all the way out to Lockwood Circle. And it's a rustic trail, and it's just wood chips, and the residents love it. So we do have different standards for trail throughout the town. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. One of the reasons it's rustic and stayed like that is it is really a local trail, and it's not used too much by anybody outside of the community to get from point A to B. So I am looking forward to the PIC. I am looking forward to seeing, quite frankly, a much scaled back version of this. I think it'll still provide the need that the residents have identified, getting out to Yonge Street without meandering through a whole community. I like the term that was used, a shortcut. Shortcuts are important, but really that's what it is. This is a trail, a convenience for local use. I think everybody around the table does want to see this happen, but I think what I'm hearing is that they really want it scaled back and jump from 300 to 600,000. Maybe we can't scale it back to 300, but they are looking, I personally am looking for it to be scaled back, but I want to see this trail completed also.
Okay, thank you. So I think we've had some good discussion on that. It's time for us to call the question.
Sorry, I want to say more thing. Sure. Mr. Mayor, I get the conversation as Tom said. I think everybody's making very valid points, and there's a lot of considerations here. But I really I'm concerned about going. I think we're trying to do everything at once. And it's not my choice, but it's important to respect the will of council. And what I think I'm hearing from a majority of members is they want to see this considerably scaled back. I hate to say this, but then I think maybe we should slow it down and get options, as was suggested earlier by a couple of councillors, and then go to a PIC. But I think if we go to a PIC while trying to figure out how to bring the budget down, we're going to confuse the public conversation considerably. I think people are going to be like, so what are you proposing and to what level? And so I hate to say it, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's a decision of council. I support the trail as it is, and I think it's a connection to Yonge Street. And to be a little flippant, I don't think we want wood chips going out to Yonge Street, but I'm just being a little flippant. But if that is where council's going, then I think we owe it to ourselves to probably figure out to what degree we want to fund this, so that when we go to a PIC to the public, it's within we're offering options that are fundable, not options that are not fundable. I'm just putting that out there. I think we need to think about that. I'm sorry to confuse it further, but.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Hempin.
Thank you. I would also support that. I think it's important that we have staff come back to us with different options and different costs, and have this council consider that, and then move forward with a PIC, so we're not wasting resources and time.
Okay, thank you. What I had in mind were the two options, the option A and option B. One was 465,000, I think, and the other one was the 630. So that's what I had in mind as coming back. So, yep. So, yeah. Is there any way that we can reflect that into the motion, or if? Subject to, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, could we not change just number one, that council directs staff to take option 1 and 2 to a PIC?
Leave it at that.
I mean, and then there might be members of this council that don't support either, and then they won't support that motion. But at least it's clear. Or we have to go back to the drawing board. But we do have two options from staff, and I think we could provide further direction that based upon that staff continue to look for Conservation Authority provincial grants. I don't know, but I think it's one of either, as you're saying, Mr. Mayor, two options, or we go back to the drawing board a little bit and find out.
Okay. Now who have we got as the mover and the second here? Councillor Broom-Plumley and Councillor Kerwin. Would you see that as a friendly, or do we need to go through that council would, what was the language, regional councillor?
The council directs staff to hold a PIC based on option 1 and 2.
And then the balance of the items might still be relevant. For the ward council who moved it. Yep. Councillor Broom-Plumley, would you see that as friendly?
I would see that as friendly. Again, the purpose here is to make sure that this is what the public in fact wants.
Okay. In the meantime, though, the balance of the recommendations is that the capital budget would still be set aside at 630, so that would still preserve that in the capital projects. We don't need to spend it if it's in the budget, and we'll determine what we want to spend once we see the PICs, with those two coming forward. So that's Councillor Broom-Plumley. Councillor Kerwin, do you see that as?
We heard from our Commissioner, Mr. Neuhammer, with regard to design and so forth. When we go to that PIC, that Public Information Center, now we're asking him to come forward with two designs, because they're different designs. Is this not, and we mentioned that this was a factor in the cost. Is this a factor in the cost, through you, Mr. Mayor, to our Commissioner?
Mr. Neuhammer?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the intent of this project all along was to go to the public at a PIC with the preferred design. This motion would now have us prepare two different designs, and I would provide some direction to staff that they be very preliminary designs if this is the route to go, rather than go forward with significant investment in preparing two different designs. So it changes the orientation of the PIC.
Of course it does. And the bottom line is, when you think of it, this is and has been and brought back to us as the preferred design of the residents. So now we're going to go back to them with a scaled down version of what they have thought they were going to get, and we're going to say, okay, now we're going to ask them, well, do you vote on, not on A, but we're going back to B, and what do you think the residents are going to say? They're going to say, we told you. We had this preferred design, and now you're telling us we can't have it. And this is exactly what the regional councillor has said all along. You know, you have got this far with this preferred design, and now we're saying, okay, we're going to go back again and say, well, you're not going to get it. But the residents are going to say to you, hold it a second, we don't want B, we want A. And you know, when you look at trail systems are not just trails themselves. When I walk on trails, I also use the sidewalks that are there. And this is an area where the trail leads into sidewalks, and it allows me to connect to Yonge Street through a trail system from sidewalks. And, you know, we have smart commute that we're trying to eliminate greenhouse gas, and this achieves its purpose by allowing people to walk from this residential area into Yonge Street, where there will be public transit.
Thank you, Councillor. We still have, do you see it as friendly or not? Because this motion. Okay. Councillor Broom-Plumley.
I agree with what Councillor Kerwin is saying, and again, this is a project that started long before I was a councillor. So I'm looking to members of council who were involved in this process, and I'm also listening to residents that are saying that they are fine with option B. So again, I agree with what Councillor Kerwin is saying. The residents have warmed up to the idea of having this path. They like the efforts the staff have made to bring these provisions forward. If we were to go back to them and to change those provisions, I believe Councillor Kerwin is correct. We would have an issue.
I'll assume that we do not have friendly amendment. We'll take that out. And then we'll go ahead and we'll vote on the recommendations as that remain. We got to get to a decision sooner or later. Okay. Okay. So let's take that portion where we're talking about the two options out, that we endorse option 2, see whether council is able to support that, and if not, then there may be alternate options. Councillor Hempel, final comments,
there will be, Mr. Mayor. I respect the residents who live adjacent to the property, and I know we need to look at their needs. This land was conveyed to the town of Newmarket from builders, and it is public land. At the same time, we need to respect the residents who live there. We also need to respect the public's money, and the cost overrun, in my opinion, of $630,000 from the $305,000. And I will not be able to support this.
I just want to clarify, Tom. The total budget is $630,000.
Yes.
So the overrun is only $300,000. Not that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's not. It's not a $630,000 overrun.
It's a $345,000 overrun.
Yeah. So it's
and
the difference.
$1.
Okay.
300. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
$345,000 and $1 is the overrun. So yeah, if I said it incorrectly, I'm sorry, but it's still a significant amount of money. So I will not be able to support the motion. My preference would be to go back to staff, have them come back with some options, and find some potential savings for us. And it's a significant amount of money. So again, I won't be able to support it.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm not going to support it either, largely because I think we need to come back and take another look at that cost, the cost of it. And I know that we are already granting some land over to the residents that the trail infringes on. I would support the other option, the lower cost option. So I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Oh. We're voting on what's in front of us now, which is endorsing option number 2 at a cost of $630,000.
No, and further information.
And further information to be provided prior to the approval of the project.
Sir, Mr. Mayor,
Can you just clarify, did
Yeah.
you say you don't support option 2 anymore?
I don't, no, I'm gonna go with the lower cost option because I think that, that we can make it work at the lower price. It's the sticker value that catches me as well. Well, if there were two options, Councillor, if there were two options, I could support that. But now we're saying we're going to go with option 2, which is $630,000,
Okay.
and I'd like us to explore the $400,000
So
option.
may I ask, if this is defeated, then where do we go from here?
We could explore further.
We just scrap the trail?
No, I don't want to scrap the trail.
Oh,
But
okay.
we could put an alternate motion in at the lower cost.
At the lower cost. In other words, we're going to have a pic showing the residents the lower cost. And, no, we don't know, do we? Okay. All right.
Okay. I'll call the question then. All those in favor? The motion fails. Entertain an alternate motion. Councillor Hempel?
I'm going to bring forward a motion that staff come forward with alternative trail options for this area, with a number of different options on cost, and I don't want to see us going to a design stage, but looking at a lower cost.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Yeah, we should. And that motion passes. You know, it's, I think that deals with the minutes of November the 30th. I think we do have a few short minutes, and then I think it's time for us to take a break.
I do want to discuss on number 10, just to let you know.
Sorry? On?
Item 10.
Yes. Yeah, that'll come separately. But let's deal with the minutes. We have special committee of the whole minutes of November.
December 7th.
Well, there's December 7th, December 14th, and November 16th. And I believe November 16th was the latest edition. All of those are fairly straightforward. All of them? Okay. And the recommendations contained therein. Anybody wish to deal with? Is there a seconder for that? Those other special committee minutes? Councillor Sponga. All those in favor? Councillor Hempel? And those pass. So it's about 9:18 now. Can we come back at about 9:30 and we'll continue on with our agenda? Okay. I'll call the meeting back to order. We've dealt with, I think, the committee meetings. I'd like to come back to item number 9, which is the Recreation Culture report. And given the lateness of the hour and the complexities of some of the issues there, I would ask that we consider deferring the report and its recommendations to the January the 11th Committee of the Whole. Committee of the Whole, January the 11th, in order that council can have the benefit of having our legal counsel present in a closed session, so that be referred to a closed session. Okay, it's moved by Councillor Sponga, seconded by Councillor Twinney, and that is that this item be referred to the January 11th Committee of the Whole. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. So if you're waiting for a decision on this, we're going to bring this back in January. Okay? All right. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your patience. Okay. Item number 10. We're right down to that now, aren't we, Andrew? Yeah. Item number 10, this is the Legislative Services Report 2015-26. It relates to the council lobbying framework. We do have some recommendations. Could I have a motion, Regional Councillor?
Thanks. I'll move the recommendations. I may have an amendment after questions, but I think it's covering everything, but I'll move the recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder?
I'll second the recommendation.
Okay. Speaking to the motion, Regional Councillor?
Yeah, thank you very much. I guess, so what I'm seeing here is great, and thank you to staff. This reflects, I think, the committee of the whole discussion and the direction that council wanted to go in terms of a lobbying framework related to the very substantial Northern Six waste collection contract. I believe it's stating that oral communication between members of directors, officers, employees, members of council, director, officer, that if it's oral, that it not occur. Is that correct? Prior to the issuance of the request for proposals.
Mr. Clerk.
Yes, that is the intent.
So can somebody just explain to me that, then I'm just going one at a time, but so number one, the first recommendation, the way it's worded, why does it end by saying that be limited to acknowledging and referring such communications to the procurement department? Is that recognizing that you might not be able to stop somebody from saying something to you?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So an example would be just receiving a phone call from a potential proponent, and the idea there would be, it would just be to thank the proponent for their call and to indicate that that they should contact the procurement department for further information, or perhaps not acknowledging the phone call.
Okay. I just, yeah, I see what you're saying. I just hope it's worded strongly enough. Prior to the issuance of request proposal, be limited to acknowledge and referring such communications.
How about just?
I think we should say. I think we should state somehow that any communication between, and frankly, it says, it seems to be council and any director, officer, employee, or representative of the firm. Are we also not, this original report and recommendation referred to staff as well, and there seems to be no mention of staff in these recommendations?
In the, through you, Mr. Mayor, in the body of the report, it indicates an existing direction to staff, which, as of course we would follow direction of the CAO, which is essentially the same direction, which is to refer matters to the procurement office.
Okay,
so that was under the jurisdiction of the CAO that already exists. So this was with respect to council's interactions with potential proponents.
Provisions in place for staff?
Yes, existing provisions.
Okay,
It wouldn't hurt to add that if
I
council
feel
felt
there should be at
comfortable.
least one clause that references that staff, and I'm open to some suggestions from staff members, but that staff communications, you know, go through procurement or only for those. Some wording, I need some help there. But I think this report was originally about staff and council, and it now seems to be about council, and I think there should be at least one clause that refers to staff as well.
Okay.
So if anybody can provide us help there on how that might be worded, but I feel like it's. I think we should. Sorry, I'm struggling with it. I just think it should be more strongly worded. I think that I see what's being said in number one, but but I think it could be open to interpretations. Someone could read that as, and if you do have some oral communication, make sure you let somebody know. But I think it should be stated, you know, that communications, oral or written. I think, you know, I think the first one should be that council, the council endorses a ban on communication or a prohibition of communication between proponents or their agents and council members except by writing. And then we can further state, I guess the others could be, because then if it happens, if somebody approaches you, but I think it needs to be clear. I think it needs to be clear also for the proponents to read and see that what we're saying is you cannot approach individual members of council prior to the issuance of the RFP for one-on-one meetings or one-on-one conversations, whether it's in a hallway or otherwise. And I mean, and then maybe there has to be something to recognize how, you know, I'd rather see it, okay, I think I finally got it. I'd rather see it stated very clearly and firmly and then stated, however, if a communication is attempted, the council member, the council member agrees to report or report that communication forward. But one of the things that I liked about this was that it really clearly sent a message to the industry. You know, don't attempt to have these, you know, and some of them happened many years ago, but these one-on-one conversations and chats and arm twisting, it's like it's off the table. And then if somebody does, yes, we should make sure that's you know, brought to the attention of staff so they know that this has occurred, because it could potentially be, you know, affect the RFP. Does that make sense? And can we reword that? I mean, I know there's some complicated wording here, but I'd really like to see it stated sort of very strongly and clearly, and then acknowledge that, yes, of course, you can't guarantee that somebody isn't going to attempt it. So then if that does occur, that the protocol that council endorses is to alert staff and their colleagues to that did occur. So I can attempt that in a motion, but this is fairly technically worded, and you might not want me to.
That's great. Mr. Bear. Where are we? Count on any oral. How about on any communications?
Any communication, yeah.
Take the word oral out. Any communications. And that any communication to council from potential proponents be. How about, and that rather than just acknowledge, why don't you just say be forwarded for item number 2? Written communications to council from potential proponents be forwarded to the procurement department. Don't even acknowledge it. And the deputations and, yep. Councillor Kerwin?
Yeah. It's as clear as a bell to me, okay. Mr. Mayor. The Bellamy report spelled it out. Mm-hmm. And it's as clear to me that the intent here is you don't communicate either way, them with you or me with them, with regard to the contract that's going out. Like, I don't know how more emphatic I can say that. It's a great lesson for all of us. That's it. It's. I don't care whether you put a ban on it or whatever word all of us now know, we've discussed it, that it just doesn't happen. This is a red light. End of story.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Vague, my apologies. I didn't ask for your comments as the seconder.
Okay. I agree with Councillor Kerwin that all of us around the table understand the intent of this. I also think of when this goes out to the public, who may have not had the benefit of discussion around the table, it should be as unambiguous as possible. And I also agree with Regional Councillor Taylor's comment that this is something that can be shown or provided to anybody who wishes to be involved in the RFP, to emphasize with them that we actually have a ban on communication. So while the intent is clear, and I absolutely agree with you, the motion that we have in front of us can be used in ways to inform the public and also inform potential bidders on this. So that's why I do like that phrasing, a ban on any communications. So just make it as explicit as possible for those reasons. So I do like the wordsmithing that has been provided.
Thank you. Councillor Hempin, then Regional Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I agree with the comments that were made, and I don't believe any member of council should be speaking with people who are providing estimates or RFPs that we're out on and having those conversations. Now, I'd like some information from staff. This is a Northern 6 RFP, which includes, I believe, Aurora, Gwillimbury, Stouffville, Georgina, Newmarket, and do I got them all? And King. Thank you.
6 of them, yeah.
Thank you. I missed that one. So when we go out for an RFP like this, and is this delegated to staff to look at the contract and choose basically who is the least expensive while following the criteria that's in front of us, in front of them and yourselves as staff members? Or does this actually come back to council to make any decision? Is this going to be in front of council for a cost estimate and we're going to make that decision? Or how does that work?
Mr. Sheldon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe in the discussions and in the earlier staff report, what we have talked about is ensuring that there's a greater emphasis on quality. There will be a staff report that comes to committee in the first month or two of the new year that will respond to some of the questions that council members raised and also deal with the evaluation process. So the evaluation of the proposals would be done by staff based on the criteria that is approved by the councils, and there would be a recommendation for award by the staff that would go to council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Correct, Peter?
Regional Councillor?
Two things, yes. So I still would like to, and if staff can provide a wording that they think might be better or appropriate, but something that says that staff follow the prescribed protocol for communication, and that's limited to staff in that department or procurement staff or something. Because I think the report was about staff originally, and I think there needs to be a corollary to that in the recommendations. So something there.
I think they did add council or staff in the second. Any communications?
No, that means of the firm that's applying.
Okay.
No, sorry, Mr.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, no, we did add members of council or staff and any director being starting from there being the firms that are being engaged. So the intent is to capture both council and staff having the same standard.
Okay, so I appreciate that, but now I think we might be too restrictive on staff, are we not?
Well,
Mr. Sheldon.
Yes.
Going to raise, if I may, I think in the earlier report, Mr. Director, there was reference to a certain group of staff that have to be involved in the discussions, procurement, and whoever is designated in terms of in engineering or whatever the area is. Right now, the initiative is being led by Town of Newmarket Public Works with a co-chair from Witchard Stouffville, I believe. So there should be something that does permit discussions between the proponents and those individuals.
So I actually think I have a suggestion that will solve it if I could. I think actually if we stated that either in a separate one or in that one, that and that all staff outside of those that will be identified in advance necessary to the process are also restricted in a similar manner. And then there would be a transparent way in which staff would circulate to council and say the following 5 people are authorized to enter into conversations because they need to execute, and then we know who it is. So if we could put in wording to that effect that that all staff, with the exception of those to be identified in advance of the RFP, be subject to the same ban. Does that sound about right?
Commissioner Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If council would prefer, staff have heard the direction that you're going. If you want us to take a look at the wording tomorrow, I'd like to have the conversation with the procurement manager, and then we could circulate to you the draft wording, and you can comment on that at that time, rather than wordsmithing the exact words tonight. It's an option for you to consider.
We can do that?
It's,
aren't we passed?
Yeah, we are actually passing some recommendations here.
Correct. And if we do find, I think the clerk can help me with this, there is a section in the new procedure bylaw that may give us some leeway for an administrative
Correction,
amendment before the minutes get signed. So we could look at it that way if you'd prefer.
Yeah, I think if we put the 3rd in then, and then you exercise what you can according to the procedures, I think we have to put something.
Excluding those in
I think we understand the intent.
Yep. So
And
we
then-
do understand the intent,
Yeah.
and then we could, like I
The
say,
la-
we've delegated that.
And the last question I have, though, is that the one thing that's not captured here that I thought we discussed and was the direction we're going in is that this is saying an absolute all-out ban on any type of communication, which I support to the degree, except for one exception. I believe, perhaps even legally or certain, and at least democratically, and we talked about this before, I raised it before, is the idea that they may have the right to raise some issues. There might even be something raised during the process that staff would want to come to us with. And so I thought the idea was that we were directing any communication to be non-individual and in writing, i.e. to all of council in writing that would be transparent and, but that, so that what we're trying to get away from is individual lobbying or even deputations, one after another, arm twisting all of council. But if they want to raise something with the process or something that they think should have been included, whether we act on it or not, I think there needs to be a venue for that. So I appreciate staff comment on that.
Okay, Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mr.
Are these
Mayor.
numbered?
I think in part, what we were referring to in the second clause there with the a public report, information report, that the intent was that if council or staff do receive communications from the proponents, that would then form part of an information report that would be posted and be made public, subject to, for example, privacy legislation that might, if the communication contained proprietary information, we might have to redact some of that. With respect to process issues or things that might involve reconciliation, I think most of those are probably dealt with through the procurement process. I don't know exactly a circumstance what that might be, but I believe that might be independent of what this lobbyist framework might spell out.
Okay, so sorry, the only thing I would ask for is, and unless I'm wrong here, but a slight rewording there is to indicate, again, very clearly for the proponents, that all written communication must be to council as a whole, and all written communications to council from potential proponents then be forwarded to procurement department. Because you could almost read that as like, oh, if you got a letter from, to one person on council, but I don't think we should be receiving anything that everybody is, and so I think we should, for the sake of the people reading it and for the direction from council to proponents, let's be clear. There's no oral communications, and any written communications you can expect to be made public and should be addressed to all of council.
I saw some changes on the screen. What were they? And did they capture it?
Clause 2.
And that all
Clause
written
2?
correspondence be directed to council as a whole.
And then any written
Yes.
communications?
I think that's, unless there's objections from staff, but I'd like the direction too to be as clear as possible, that this isn't about I sent a letter to Councillor Vague, and now he's going to send it for procurement. I mean, I think this is much about telling them what we see as deemed as acceptable. And
I think we're pretty clear in terms of what we want to accomplish. Maybe we'll let staff, if that captures it and doesn't create problems, just to modify that before we sign the minutes off. But I think we're clear in terms of what the intent is. Okay, if you're satisfied with that. Mr. Sheldon?
Mr. Mayor, just perhaps this addresses that matter, and that is to get the direction out to proponents that written correspondence should be submitted to procurement, not to the council. That no written correspondence goes to council members, but rather to procurement, and then that clause II picks that up. That's where council receives that information, because I think one of the issues that was raised, maybe they have an idea or something, and you would get it through that formal process. And proponents would be advised that they are not to be sending written correspondence to council members. And I think, subject to confirming that with our solicitor or with our purchasing manager, that's more in keeping, I think, with the Bellamy report and approach.
And so that, sorry if I may, Mr. Mayor, the idea being then that any written correspondence be sent to the procurement department, and then the procurement department, when legal staff would decide what and how it's forwarded to council.
Exactly, through a information report.
Okay, yes.
Who's the seconder on that? And are you okay with it? Councillor Vague? Okay. Okay, good. Any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor as amended? Okay, that carries. Thank you. Item number 11 is a memorandum and the recommendations that it be received. It's regarding manufacturer's limited liquor sales license for Arch Brewing Company, Inc. on Pony Drive. Could I have a motion with respect to the recommendations? Councillor Twinney? Okay. You get to speak to it as the seconder. Councillor Twinney is the mover.
No, I think it's,
Got to push your button.
sorry.
Thank you.
It's for it's a new brewery, I guess a micro brewery going into on Pony Drive, and they want to have limited liquor sales, I believe, and it has to go through a municipal resolution. It's pretty straightforward, I think.
Okay, Councillor Vague?
But my question is, this is a little bit new to me at least. What is a limited liquor sales license? Does that mean you can only sell so much to me, or the hours restricted? I just don't know what it means.
Mr. Brown?
I have to make my plans.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It is a license that's granted only to a brewery or a manufacturer on site, and it is to sell liquor by the glass. So it's for example, for just to promote their product that they sell on site.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor? And that carries. Next item is bylaws, 2015-60 through to 2015-64, noting that 2015-62 will be corrected. Okay. Councillor Sponga, seconded by Councillor Bazance. Anyone wishing to have any of the bylaws dealt with separately? Okay. Mr. Brower, if you could read the short form of the bylaws.
Sure. Bylaw 2015-60 amends the official plan to allow for townhouse units as a permitted use and to designate it existing woodlot as natural heritage at 955 and 995 Mulock Drive. Bylaw 2015-61 amends the zoning bylaw with respect to those same properties. Bylaw 2015-62 permits an exemption from the noise bylaw that's for required Viva Next works on Yonge Street, subject to the revocation. Bylaw 2015-63 amends the parking bylaw to prohibit parking at any time on the north side of Bristol Road between Main Street North and the properties between 565 and 569 Bristol Road. And bylaw 2015-64 amends the traffic bylaw to permit a multi-use path on Gorham Street at Carlson Drive, Doak Lane.
All those in favor? Good. And that carries. Thank you. Announcements and community events. Or no, are there any notices of motion or any motions? Okay, let's go to announcements and community events. We'll start with Councillor Hank. Is anybody watching at this hour? Okay. Does council wish to just dispense with it and dispose them? Okay.
Motion to post.
All right. Has the mover? Comment? Any comments? Okay. Seconder, Councillor Vey? Or no, Councillor Kerwin. Councillor Kerwin is the seconder. Any comments?
My only comment is that I'd like to say to any viewers that we have left, certainly everyone in the town, Merry Christmas and a prosperous and healthy New Year. It's our last time here. Maybe I'll say that on behalf of all of council, or we can go around the table and everyone can say that.
Thank you. Good job,
Okay. And just for the record, that the municipal offices are open until noon on Wednesday, December 24th. The offices will be closed for the holidays and resume regular hours of business on Friday, January the 2nd. And that during the holidays, the Customer Service Center at 395 Mulock is open from 10 till 3 on December 29th, 30th, and 31st. And our customer service kiosks are available at the Magna Center and the Ray 20 Rec Complex, and the details are on our website, just for those who wish to endure watching this late hour. Okay, closed session is not required. The addendum's been dealt with. New business. No items? Okay. Confirmatory bylaw. Councillor Sponga, Councillor Kerwin. Wish to speak as the mover? All those in favor? And that is carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Twinney, Councillor Kerwin. All those in favor? That is carried. It's been a long night. Thank you for your patience. We've accomplished significant.